Welcome, fellow leapers. I'm not actually going to call you guys that from now on. That's pretty awful, but in today's video, I'm going to be showing exactly what you want to be looking for in your games to actually increase your farming patterns. Because what I see with a lot of carry players is they farm like a bunch of wussies. Stop staying on your side of the map all game if you actually want to carry and drag the enemy team around. If you want to make them look like puppets, if you want to make the enemy team look so foolish and you look like the god of Dota, I'm going to be talking about the tips and the areas of the map you should be typically farming in to actually make that happen. And what we're going to be doing is first looking at a lower MMR replay. One of my students that I'd recently talked to about Lycan, so it's fresh on my mind and I think it's super instructive. So this was a Archon game and I want to show what he did wrong. So we discussed this very heavily and I'm going to give you the short breakdown, right, of Lycan in general and what he does wrong, and then give the contrast so that you can see what are the farming patterns that he completely ignored as an Archon player that someone in the Immortal bracket would abuse to actually crush their game. It's time to take control of your games by mastering the carry role. At gameleap.com, we have hundreds of pro guides covering position 1 heroes, as well as an entire course dedicated completely to the carry role. Stop losing in the late game, period. Hit the discount link in the description below to steal the secrets of pros and unlock your hidden potential, especially as a carry player. Alright, so the first thing you want to understand as a carry player is identifying what lane is good for you. This is the biggest thing, and this is very important for farming patterns, right? Because farming patterns is something that is relative to the enemy team, right? People often look at it as like, oh, you just take this one path and all of a sudden your GPM goes up to 900. No, it has to be extremely based upon where the enemy team is. So first off, let's look at what lane he actually wants to be in. Does he want to be laning against the Timbersaw? The answer is probably no. Does he want to lane against Void? Yep, that's totally fine. The Void is pretty underfarmed. He's a much higher level and therefore definitely can, especially with his item timing. And Invoker, yeah, probably could lane Invoker as well. This Invoker is also pretty underfarmed and going a very, very greedy item build, meaning he can completely run him over with his solid start to the game. But the mistake he makes within this game is primarily based upon what he didn't do rather than what he did do wrong. So if we look ahead here, he gets his Helm of the Dominator timing, right? And now is where he makes his biggest mistake. So essentially what he ends up doing is that he abuses the fact that Lycan is a very fast jungler, one of the fastest in the games, especially with this Helm of the Dominator timing. But the problem is there's no intent to his farming patterns. So if we look here, he's walking from camp to camp, and this is fine, right? If you were just jungling and you're a Wraith King. But the problem is, the best way to get farmed as a carry is solely predicated on this notion, which is waves plus jungle, right? There are very few heroes that only jungle and actually like doing it, right? Even a Naga Siren or Terrorblade really would prefer to take lane creeps if they are allowed to. So in this game, what I think he makes the mistake of is not identifying which lane enables him to get lane creeps, which would amplify his farm, or enables him to use his ultimate in Wolves, which is also incredible because he has a natural spike in power, but that's not exactly farming patterns, so I won't discuss that too much. Regardless, he ends up running out this Timbersaw. It nets them a kill, so not a bad rotation, but in general, what I would typically prefer him to do is look to actually transition this into a tower, right? And going for bottom tower it's okay, but it doesn't actually open up anything too important on the map at the moment, as he is Radiant. On Dire, it's a bit better, but you notice he kind of just goes back and forth through the jungle, and this is very clean, guys. So the main thing you want to focus on in farming patterns is the clock, stacking, and then like which camp are you going to next. So if I pause here, which one is he going to next, right? And he kind of has to make up his mind, and he starts walking down here. But this is the main problem with his farming pattern. Because it doesn't include any creep waves, it's slow. Period. Like it's not that slow because of how good Lycan is at doing what he's doing, but it's relatively slow or ineffective, at least in creating pressure, because farming is not all about gold, it's also about map pressure. So yeah, hopefully you notice the trend where he's sort of just staying in the jungle the whole game, and what he could be doing is running at this underleveled Faceless Void who's level 8 and only has a Maelstrom, which wouldn't do too much to him as the wolves get cripple and absolutely destroy him. And not only that, he even could just kill this Invoker if he had Dust. Right, once again, not really making any too big of plays, which is what you want to do. Your farming patterns want to align with what your goals are, right? So his goals as a Lycan should be to run at a tower or run at a hero that he can easily kill and then pressure the tower nearby or pressure the waves nearby. If you're a Wraith King, then you might just want to be jungling full time until you get your radiance, and then using skeletons to push the waves so that you don't have to risk dying. But really what I want to do is now move on to an advanced Lycan replay to kind of show the separation. This is the 15-minute mark, and you notice he's basically not gone on the enemy side of the map yet. And let's go to the other side of the equation. And now before I go into the next replay, I just want to give my 3 general tips on increasing farm efficiency. And if you can consider these and make sure you're applying all of them or focusing on them each game, your farm will eventually become better and better. And that is, am I using my spells? So a lot of players just won't even use their spells to farm. I recently was coaching a Faceless Void, and he wouldn't use Time Walk to go from camp to camp, even though we could see everyone else on the minimap, right? So that would increase his efficiency. It's not by a lot, but that's Dota. It's the small things. If you're Lycan, are you using your Wolves enough, or your Necro 1? Are you using Spin to take stacks on Juggernaut? Are you using Godstrike to take Ancient stacks on Sven? Are you using your spells? The second one is, am I incorporating lane creeps, which I'll be discussing in this replay right here. And then the third one is, am I looking at the map? Because staying alive is a big thing for farming patterns. Your farming patterns need to be relative to the enemy team. It's not just one path. It's, okay, the enemy team is top, so I'm going to farm towards bottom, or I'm going to farm backwards top, meaning I'm going away from the tower and back towards the camps, or like towards the tri-camps, which we'll mention here. So right away, Crystallize is playing Lycan in this game, and he wipes through the jungle, right? He's doing the same thing. He cleared all the nearby camps, he's using his spells, he has the mana regeneration Sage Masks in his inventory so that he can spam the wolves to farm even faster, which is absolutely fantastic for his farming efficiency. But the main difference you'll see between his gameplay and the other Lycans is his ability to now shift towards the top shrine, which will posture him to actually, fight. And he gets gone on and takes the fight, right? But this is what the other Lycan player wanted to do. Now, if you were a Juggernaut or a Void, you might do the same exact thing because your hero likes to fight. But once again, this is relative to your hero, and I want to make that clear. If you were a Terrorblade and try to do exactly what I'm saying now, you will feed very reliably, and same thing for even the likes of a Naga Siren, right? Be very careful about playing extremely aggressive with these farm item timing oriented cores. If you're an alchemist and you're fighting, you are making a mistake 90% of the time in the early game. And now look at the difference, guys. This is the biggest thing and the biggest difference that every single carry and core player makes. They don't shove in the lanes. Yes, they're 4K ahead, but is he running around looking for kills? No. What is he doing? He's shutting down their side of the map. So if we look at the waves now, he pushed this in, it's not there. He pushed this in, he killed this camp, he killed this camp, and now when this all is dead, as this is bugged and he's still in Lycan hold for no reason, once this all is dead, he only now backs. This is the only time where he now backs to the jungle. That is it. And this can apply for any sort of carry that has any general mobility. If it's blur on PA, spin on Jug, doesn't matter. There's pounce on Slark, right? And rage on Ursa. There's so many examples. Fire Remnant on Ember Spirit. You can play on the enemy side of the map so that you take away their farm and actually push in useful creep waves. Now, upcoming here is just one of the most efficient farming patterns in the game, and it applies to both sides. And it is this simple, guys. If you don't abuse this one pattern over and over again, you're probably limiting your farm a lot. And what this is you go to the enemy safe lane, right, away from the dead lane. You push in the wave, very important, right around here. Right, this is the dire side of the map. This is Radiant. Radiant, it would be right here. Same thing. You push that in, and then you take the small camp, right? So he's doing it separately because he has units. Most heroes would have to kill the wave and walk over. And then, after you kill the small camp, you have options. You either Quelling Blade this tree and walk through to the next camp, or you walk backwards because you're afraid, right? In this case, he even walks to this camp, right? And takes this one, and you have that option as well. If we watch a Naga replay, you'll see the same exact thing because this is what these heroes like to do and it's very efficient for them. And now only now once the lane is under the tower and he's killed all the camps is he backing to the triangle. That is the only time he is backed, but he has cleared everything else first. He's pushed in the lane first, and now he is jungling, right? And now once he finishes his camp, where does he go? Where does he go, guys? This is important. Back to the lane, boys. Right back to the lane. And this is farming efficiency in Dota 2. And this is the relative basis that I want you to look at it on. Of pushing the lane, take the nearby jungle camps. If they're coming to gank you, back all the way back, go to the back to the triangle even faster. But other than that, right, he's looking at the minimap. He sees Lifestealer bottom, OD mid, so he's not threatened. So he pushes in the wave, and look what he does next. Takes the tower because he's a Lycan. Otherwise, if you're a Jug or a Void, you could just take these camps, right? It's a bit different due to the nature of his hero, which is why heroes are very lane dependent. But after he took that wave, he could have taken this camp, taken the wave again, and then maybe even finished up the tier 2. And that is efficient. The greatest part to this playstyle is that it actually gets your team to become more active. Not always, of course. You can't always force people to do things. It's difficult. But you can often make calls to come up to you, or people will naturally walk to you, just as a result of you being aggressive. And you notice that's what happens here. So instead of him being miles away from the fight as a good fighting core, or a core with his item timing, or, you know, Chrono or Omni Slash, he's right in the fight. Right, he's already here. This is really, really nice because he doesn't have to like run across the map, right? He doesn't have to sprint from the triangle all the way to this fight now. He's already here. And let's say they took a fight mid. He could wrap on mid, no problem. Let's say they were diving bottom. He can TP. He can basically be everywhere right now. It's really, really convenient. And that's sort of why this game ends in 20 minutes, and it's the reason why a lot of players struggle with Lycan or pushing heroes, because on farming cores, what players do right is they just hit creeps for a long enough time, and eventually they come online. But for Lycan, he eventually falls off, and the problem is people AFK farm on Lycan or don't farm at all, right? It's like one or the other. What he's doing well is that he's pushing in the lanes. He's not just booking it around, even though he's very strong, right? He's super, super strong. He's not just running around like a madman. He's going from wave to camp to wave to camp. Fight breaks out. Oh, let me show up. And if you can understand that one concept of farm, 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 optimally on the enemy side of the map, and then when a fight breaks out, you shift over, you take the fight, and immediately go back to farming. And know that it's not AFK farming. That's simply being diligent of having a balance between farming and fighting, which a lot of people struggle with, and hopefully you can consider it. Because you notice, even as he's coming out of Roche, this is huge for me. Like, just this is what I love this. So he takes Roche, no hesitation to farm this next camp. Do you see how it's just built into him? This is not a farming pattern. He's just like, where's the nearest camp? That's it. And so he walks over and takes the nearest camp, and then the next one. And now he's going to walk probably up, right? Because if he walks up, now he can get to the wave, right? Now the wave is nearby, and he's constantly posturing around the waves. So hopefully you kind of get the general message here. Remember guys, what I'm saying now applies to a lot of different carries, not just Lycan. If you're a hero like PL or Wraith King, yeah, maybe you can be more defensive in jungling, but at the same time, if you can learn how to farm on the enemy side of the map aggressively and not die by staring at the minimap, you will have more impact, and you will also have more farm because the majority of your CS will actually be useful. I see a lot of players with 200 CS at 20 minutes, but they're just worth nothing because they're like 80% mini mud golems. And yes, that is an over-exaggeration, but hopefully this helps and kind of enlightens you a bit to maybe what you're doing wrong as a carry player. Because I think so many carries, they misinterpret what I say about AFK farming, where they AFK farm on the wrong part of the map and then it's actually zero impact. What you want to do is farm and put your priority on farming, because that's what a lot of safe laners want to do, but on parts of the map where you drag the enemy team around and force rotations because you can threaten their tower if they don't respond. And that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'm going to make another guide at some point on farming patterns for other heroes and exactly what pros do in terms of movements, but this is the general basis. It sometimes can be very random, but what I talked about in the enemy safe lane with wave to camp to wave to camp is the biggest basis I've seen for any carry hero that enables them to snowball. So yeah, good luck and try it out. Tired of being sandbagged by your team? At gameleap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as, of course, specifically covering the carry role. Hit the link on screen right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.